Hey folks, I'm Sarah and I'm on the 2025 jury for what I think is the best book prize for literary fiction from small presses. It's called the Republic of Consciousness Prize, United States and Canada, and it is dedicated to literary fiction from small presses in North America. Over the next few months, I will be sharing every single book nominated for the prize, and while I can't share my personal opinions on each book just yet, I will share enough details so that you can get to know the book and the publisher. Every book gets its very own video, and you are not going to want to miss a single one. Next up is book number 33, All Trap, No Bait by Joseph Worthen, published by Tortoise Books. Set in the summer of 2020 in Mobile, Alabama, this novel follows a young woman named Bev who is very down on her luck. She is out of work due to the pandemic. She's about to lose her housing. She's about to become homeless because her roommate is moving in with her boyfriend, and Bev can't afford the rent on her own, let alone not even just the rent. She can't even afford food on her own. She's basically estranged from her mother, and her only community, her only friends other than her roommate, are from a poetry collective called Dark Secret Alabama, which is filled with, as the publisher calls them on the back of the book, filled with weirdos and social pariahs who communicate mostly through an online chat room and write poems with titles like "Fucking a McFlurry for as long as I can." So Bev is already on a downward trajectory when she gets a message in Dark Secret Alabama's chat room from someone claiming to be a demon who has access to information about Bev that no one should have access to, and who starts to blackmail Bev through this information that she has. And through this blackmail, the demon has Bev perform strange tasks throughout the city of Mobile. And as Bev continues to follow the demon's instructions for her, things get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse for Bev in wild and spectacular ways. Joseph Worthen is a writer from South Carolina, and he holds a BA from the University of South Carolina and an MFA in fiction from the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, and a PhD from the University of Louisiana. And he currently teaches literature at a college in North Carolina. And Tortoise Books is a Chicago-based publisher founded in 2012. They say about themselves, "Remember the fable of the tortoise and the hare? We all learned as kids that slow and steady wins in the end, but the publishing industry's dominated by the hares. You've seen them, fast-reading, fast-selling books with a big name on the front. They loom large on the doorway displays one month and are relegated to the bargain bin thereafter, unloved, unremembered, and easily replaced by next month's next big thing. Hair today, gone tomorrow, you might say. We're looking to change that." And I'm becoming a big fan of Tortoise Books. I'm slowly, like a tortoise, acquiring. There's a tortoise theme among these nominations. There was a book previously with tortoise characters. Anyway, I am acquiring a good number of books from Tortoise Books, and I especially love a novel called Gunmetal Blue and a memoir called Strip that they've published. So I want to return for a moment to the McFlurry poem I mentioned previously, if you'll allow it. I read the title of the poem to my husband, and he was like, What do you read? Because I thought it was delightful. But I want to read to you a passage surrounding the mention of that poem. And it's in a section where Bev is describing her first encounter online with the Dark Secret Alabama collective. And later in this passage, there's a reference to a poet laureate that Bev has seen speak when she was in college. So it says, "The most recent post on the blog had been a poem called Fucking a McFlurry for as long as I can, and most of the content of that poem pertained to the physical and emotional eventualities of the titular endeavor. Bev thought this poem was pretty cool. It was the sort of thing Bev might write herself, sexual in a hopeless and directionless way. It dealt with things everyone could understand, like McFlurries. It moved between ugliness and beauty in a way that suggested comfort with both. It didn't venture anything grand for itself or the world it described. The opposite of the poems the laureate wrote, which Bev had heard during homecoming freshman year and immediately forgot. When I was flipping through and I went back to that passage that I had underlined, and I thought of an interview with another author, I forget the name of the author, but an interview I heard a while ago with an author who claimed that every novel has a single sentence buried within it that defines the whole novel. And I thought that was such a cool concept and kind of wanted to start seeing if I could find those sentences within the novels that I read, those sentences that could possibly define the whole novel, but I never do it. I hardly ever do it because I get so wrapped up in what I'm reading that I forget to look for that specifically. But when I flipped back through to that page, to that passage, I took another look at one of those sentences, and I think I found a sentence within that passage that doesn't necessarily define the plot of the novel or even define like the major themes of the novel, but I do think it captures something really essential about this book, and that's this sentence. It moved between ugliness and beauty in a way that suggested comfort with both. And I think that sentence gets at something really essential about this book. There is so much ugliness in this book, like in terms of like nasty behavior and also like ugly, nasty, like actual gross things happening in this book, but then also the ugliness of things like poverty in America and just people doing what they have to do to get by and sometimes not being able to do anything more to get by. So like ugliness in the themes, but it's also surrounded by quite a lot of beauty and beautiful language, and a beautiful way of pointing out these unsettling situations. A sentence just really struck me as getting at the core of something about this book. And so what I'm wondering is what you think about that idea generally, about the idea that there might be hidden within every novel a sentence that contains the whole novel or contains at least something essential about the whole novel, if not containing the whole novel itself. I want to know what you think about that idea and maybe challenge you to look for that in the next book you read, or if you actually have examples from books you've read and loved, I would love for you to leave that in the comments below. Always love to see your examples, and this is my example for you. And that's just one of many incredible books nominated by one of many incredible publishers. The long list of 10 books is usually announced in mid-January-ish, but I guarantee you there are going to be more than 10 amazing books from these nominees. So if you love offbeat, under-the-radar literary fiction, you are going to want to follow along. Click above or below for the next nominated book. If I've filmed it, it'll be available there. If not, stay tuned for just a little while longer. And in the meantime, you can click the playlist below that will contain all of the nominated books that I've shared so far. Again, my name is Sarah. Thank you so much for joining me here. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.